Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Survey and Spatial webinar titled Basic Usage of New Landonline Survey Capture. Today we have two presenters from Land Information New Zealand, Jeremy Gutzel and Nick Stillwell. Jeremy is a cadastral surveyor working in the property rights team at Toitu Whenua Land Information New Zealand and has over 25 years experience in cadastral surveying, working in private practice. Jeremy has one cat. Nick Stillwell is the consulting surveyor on the Modernising Landonline program. He comes from a private sector surveying background and works to share surveyor perspectives with the LINS software development teams. Now, as all of you who are listening into this live stream are aware, if you have any questions at all throughout the presentation, you can pop these in the question box on Slido, and we will copy these over for the presenters to answer for you. If you have any other questions at all, just pop them through as well. So I'd now like to hand you over to Jeremy.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to the webinar this morning. We've got a bit of a demo today, and that'll take up most of the time. Nick will be presenting that, and then we'll have time to answer some questions and go through any of the tips and tricks that people may want to know about. So again, just a reminder to add your questions to the chat, and we'll be looking to answer those at the end. So we're just going to start off with the demo, and we'll pass on to Nick.
Thanks, Jeremy. Hopefully the screen share is about to cut over, and there it goes. So with any luck, you can all now see my screen. I have already logged into the system to save you seeing me clicking traffic lights and things. Today I'm going to run through a relatively basic subdivision scenario and work through the capture on that. So here goes. Let's kick things off by creating a survey. So click the plus button up on the top right. Doesn't usually take this long. There we go. Hopefully it's faster from here. I am just working in a demo environment, which is noticeably slower than the environment you will get to work in. Okay, so one, you can just tab between these fields, and you can type to jump through the forms as well. This one's in Wellington. Right, that's created my survey and put it at the top of the list. So I'm going to click on the hyperlink to open up that survey. Cool, so that's brought me into the survey capture for this survey. I'm going to start today by importing a land XML. So I click this import button up in the top left. And we've got an import land XML panel. You can either drag and drop onto here. I've only got one screen running today, so I'll just use the dialog box and go open. Hopefully this won't take too long to import.
So you see it just running through, just gives you an update as to how it's progressing with the import. And obviously if there's any issues with it, instead of a tick box or tick circle, it'll come up with a red cross.
Awesome, here we are. So a survey is imported, and you can see the marks, vectors and parcels for the survey in the screen. We've got the survey reference, has pre-populated to here. And now we're ready to really kind of work through the capture process within Landonline. So the capture process is roughly aligned to work through in this order, from top to bottom. And yeah, there are always exceptions to that rule, I guess, but that's generally been designed like that. So, but I'll work through in this order today. So enabled users. In this case, I just want to enable one other person in my firm. You can see that all the people in my firm are listed here. I just need to tick a box to add them. If I wanted to allocate one of the roles, like being a primary contact or a signing server or both, I can click the ... on the right-hand side here and choose that. In this case, I don't want to, so I'll skip over that. If you want to add someone from another firm, you can do that on the External Users tab. I'm going to skip over pre-validation for now because I haven't really done any very much mark linking in the survey software. So we'll jump to the survey info, survey details panel, and I'll just skim through. So I'm happy with all these. No previous unit stage, need vertical datum, and you'll see that there was a red warning up here to say one of these fields wasn't populated and a glow around it. Now that it's populated, that warning's gone away. Wellington, cool. And I'll just update the date. You can either choose this in the picker, or you can just do it down here by typing. Depending on your scenario, it can be easier either way. We've also got a reference survey tab here that lists out the reference surveys. I may demo editing some of this later in the tips and tricks section if we have time, but I'll jump over it for now. Really just note that information's there in the survey details panel. So now let's get into some of the more kind of detail of the survey. So here we are in the marks panel. So there's this pattern throughout the application where there's these orange triangle warnings of we've identified something's not quite right. Doesn't check everything, but there are some checks in place there. So this is saying select a mark purpose from the official list, and you see there's actually quite a few of these, and that's because it was this land XML was prepared under the old rules, and I've just imported it, and so it needs some editing to bring it in terms of the new rules. Cool. So there's a couple of different ways of multi-editing in these panels that can make life a lot easier. So I'll demo each of them. So we'll start by editing the purpose. So if I just click on the column heading, it will actually sort based on that row, on the data in that column alphabetically. And then if I want to pick multiple things, I can just click the top one, scroll down to the last one I want to pick, hold down the shift key on my keyboard and click. And that will pick everything. A good time to point out a relatively new feature. It does give you a count of things selected in this panel, and that's just to help prevent you from accidentally editing more things than you want to. Another thing to point out is whenever you have things selected in the panel, they also highlight in the screen. Now to fix up all these ones that have the old purposes, I just double click in one of these highlighted cells, and I can choose the purpose that I want. They will go through an update, and once that's saved, those orange triangles will have disappeared. So you see it's now got boundary, which is an improved purpose under the new rules. Cool, so that's most of my purposes tidied up. I've got one more to do. So just to deselect everything, I'm just going to click this minus button up in the top left here. And now you can see I've got nothing selected. And I'm going to just double click on this witness one and change that back to non-boundary to tidy that up. So now a quick scan of my purpose column shows I don't have any more of these warnings. And yeah, so the next I'll just clear the sorting on that column by clicking it another couple of times. The next thing I want to tidy up is I've imported this survey, and in my survey software, I set the plan number as DP for this number here, but I've ultimately not imported it into a survey with that number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find all references to that plan number in this panel by typing that plan number into the search. So I go DP4. And now every kind of row in this panel that references that plan is highlighted. Cool. So in this case, because I want to change all of these, I'm just going to choose this tick box at the top to highlight everything. And a good trick for updating the CSD ref to match the current survey is you can just change the state to reset the state to new. So it's already new, but if I double click on this row and choose new again, it will go through and it'll set all of these to the current CSD ref. Now you see I don't have any results that match this filter anymore. So if I clear that, I'll just close and reopen the panel to resize the boxes again. You'll see now it's gone through and it's matched all of the the CSD refs for all of these marks to my current survey. So that's kind of two ways of being able to edit all of the, sorting and editing lots of information in the panel there, either by sorting or by using the search. And that pattern applies in all of these panels. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to run through some automatic mark linking. So in this case, I'm going to choose the 0.1 meter. One thing to note, and I don't know if many people are aware of this, but if it does find multiple hits within the distance of the mark, it will warn you to say there were multiple marks within that distance. So you'll see in this scenario, mark number 27 in my survey has not been linked because it had 2 nodes within the required distance. So that I'll just make a little note of that on the piece of paper here to go and check mark number 27. And the other 14 marks linked to something with intolerance. So we'll go find mark number 27 and I'll use you can see it's highlighted pink in the map when I've picked it, and I can use the locate feature to zoom into it. That works a lot better when you've got the marks panel on a second screen, and it's just not, there we go. Right, so I'm going to right click and go link mark. There are many ways you can link marks. You can choose the link from the panel. You can right click on the mark and go link, or you can right click in the map, not on a mark, and go start linking marks to enter mark linking mode. In this case, I just got one, so this is a handy way of doing it. And you can see the description up here. I just need to select the underlying mark to link to. And that is now linked. Given that I have just used automatic linking and just checked that one error that it did show me, I'm just going to pan around my survey and make sure all of my marks are linked before I move on to the next step. So just bear with me, it's quite important to get this right, otherwise I'll have trouble later on in the survey. Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. Right, let's work through our next panel. So our next panel is the vector panel. In this particular survey, at this stage, I'm not going to do any vector capture, but later on in the survey, we'll have a pretend real-world scenario to come back and do some more vector capture. So I'll cover off more there shortly. The next one is existing parcels panel. Now that's been pulled out into its own panel for a few reasons, but just a note that you've now got an existing parcels panel and a new parcels panel. So we're doing the existing parcels first, so we'll go add and remove existing parcels. I click the button and it takes it into this mode where I can choose the existing parcels in the map. That's all good. So I choose those two. It's going to add these two, and I can go add or remove selected.
And to note there, if you'd accidentally selected an adjoining one, you can automatically just select it again. It will deselect that parcel.
Nice, thanks, Jeremy. Next, we'll jump over to the Estate Records tab. And now we go Add Record. It defaults to title because that's the most common by far and away. But if you need to change the type, you can just double click on that cell to choose Gazette Notice or other. Other is just for syntaxes that can't quite fit into either of these other two. Enter a record. So what it does is it uses the link between the parcels and the titles from the Landonline database to find the related titles to those parcels for you. Just note that's not an authoritative link, so you do still need to manually verify that these are the right title numbers. And one of the ways you can do that is something that Am I back?
Yes, you are. You disappeared for a little bit. It appears as though Nick's jumped out again. You just seem to be
Am I
cutting
back?
in and out. You're cutting in and out a little bit there, Nick. Yeah, back at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay, cool. Hopefully that's a bit more stable now. I'm not sure what went on there. Right, where was I? Am I coming through clear, Jeremy, now?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. So I'll keep working my way through these later titles. So I was just saying, one of the ways that you can check is it does pull through that legal description from that title for you. So that's one way you can check that it's the right title number. So lot 1 and 2, DP 106A2, those do match my existing parcel. So that's a handy thing to check. Right. We've got a lines panel. We'll cover off that functionality in the next webinar that'll look at kind of some irregular boundaries, some Class D parcels, and some of the capture related to those things. So I'll jump over that for now. Parcels. So the old favourite, we still need to unlink and relink a parcel because it runs a whole bunch of topology checks during the parcel linking process. So I'm going to pick one parcel. Doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to choose relink. That's a reasonably new feature. Hopefully some of you have noticed that. And what that does for you is it first unlinks the parcel and then triggers the mark linking process. Cool, missed marks. So a lot of people don't understand what missed marks are for, but I guess the key thing to know about them is that some of these marks are required to maintain the topology of the surrounding parcels. So you can see that this mark here is required because it's the boundary between this parcel and these two parcels. So we will need to include that in the survey. And the reason it's not just automatically added in is because often if you've missed a mark with linking, then it would automatically add a whole lot of things. So you do actually need to go and check these and just make sure you don't have a mark that you did intend to link to that point. That's the key check you need to do at this stage. And that is mentioned here in the help text. So I'll go continue on that one. And same again with optional missed marks. These ones you don't have to include, but it's really helpful if you can include them if they are part of a parcel on an underlying survey. So in this case, I know there's an easement parcel on this adjacent lot, and this node exists there to enable the creation of that easement. So I am going to include that mark in this case. And now those two marks have been added in, and it's ready for me to link the parcel. So I just click inside the ring as I did in Legacy Landonline. Go link parcel. Excellent, that parcel is now linked and all those topology checks have run. Is there anything else I need to do in here at the moment? No, I'm happy with all of that. Title allocation is the next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to allocate 3 titles and we are going to assign them to the parcels. So I'll click the plus button to allocate some titles. Bump it up to 3 and go add titles. Cool, and I will then go through a process of adding one of these to each of the lots. So lot 1 will get that one. Lot 2 will get that one. Lot 3 will get that one. There have been quite a few requests from surveyors asking to have an easy way to send these to solicitors, particularly on larger surveys. And this CSV button, it's a reasonably recent addition to the app, and I haven't mentioned it. It is on all the panels and can be used for various checks, but this is one of the use cases of that. So say you wanted to send a copy of which title you've allocated to which parcel through to your solicitor, you could download this CSV here, and that will just create a little CSV file for you that you can then just send through to the solicitor, and solicitors have told us that would be very helpful for them too. It'll handle many titles allocated to a parcel and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just a handy little use case for that CSV export feature amongst others. Okay, that's the end of everything I was going to mention on the new parcels panel. So the next one is schedule memorandum. So I'll run through that briefly. We'll use the schedule memorandum button to open that up. Go create table. In this case, it's a memorandum of easements. Okay, and it's defaulted to have one kind of empty row in the table for me. So if I double click on purpose, here I can choose from a range of options. So this one has quite a range of them. Now the show one, you've got a couple of options of how to add things. You can either double click in the cells and it'll generate a list, or alternatively, and hopefully you've noticed this pattern by now, wherever this button exists, it allows you to choose a thing from the map. So for the first one, I'll just choose it from the list, which is area A, because I only have one area on the survey. That's quite easy to know. Why is that not populated the benefited land for me? That usually does. And then the burden land and the benefited land, I'll use the dropper to pick that. So I click on the dropper. So lots 2 and 3 are going to get the right of the rights over that parcel, and I'll go continue. And you can see that has now created the row for me. So there are two buttons up on the top of the schedule memorandum panel here. One of them allows you just to view this as a PDF now. So if I click that, it will spit out a PDF of the schedules, in this case just the one, that I could say send to a solicitor, send to my client, print out, do whatever I want to do with it. Or alternatively, if I want to attach it to my survey as a supporting document, I click this button. So I'll do that now. Cool. And that's saying that it was added to the supporting documents panel. That's all good. So I'm going to jump over the survey report for today. Hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory how to use it. And we'll jump to supporting documents. There's just one or two things I'll mention in this panel. One is this symbol here. So you may be familiar with legacy, that there's this kind of thing of certain documents get converted to grayscale. It's the ones that had to bundle with the plan generated images. So the ones that bundle inside the title plan or the record of survey, like your schedule memorandum, your occupation diagram, those sorts of things. So just encourage you, wherever you see this symbol, it is a reminder you do need to go and check what the document looks like to make sure it hasn't kind of got too munted during the process of converting to grayscale. So I'll just go view on that. And that all looks nice and readable to me, so I'm not worried about it. The ones that don't get that symbol aren't converted to grayscale, so they should be uploaded how you attach them. Excellent. To add supporting documents, you click this button here, and you can either drag and drop up to 5 at a time or browse for some files. I'm not going to run through that today. Hopefully that's self-explanatory. Cool. So like any typical survey, we've done some work on it, and we're just going to pretend I've received a phone call from the client that says they want a little easement kind of dog leg over the back here. So we're going to go back to our kind of completed capture and do some work to add in that easement schedule, that easement parcel. So we need to edit the vectors, sort out the mark attributes, add the existing parcels that are getting the benefit of the easement, and then update our schedule as well. So to start with, I'll go to my vectors. So I'll choose this vector and I'm going to right click on it and go edit. This is reasonably new too, so if you right click on a mark or a vector and go edit, it will open up the panel for you and jump to the row of that vector. And then I'm going to go insert vector above, just to keep the two together. Now, I want to have one that goes from 32 to new point 43, which is all good, and I'm going to make that 18.05. And then I'll change that other one to go from 43 to 42 to 34, sorry, and I'll change that to be just 2 meters long. Another thing to mention while I am here is that in the earlier versions of the application, it was quite slow to tab between rows, between columns. So what you'll see now is if you tab between columns, it's much quicker. And if you hit tab and you enter data, it will kind of save and jump to the next field for you. Whereas if you hit enter, it will just save your change and not jump to the next field. So hopefully that's made it a lot easier to capture multiple vectors. We've had a lot of good feedback on it, so just highlighting that is now there for you. And the last thing I need to do with this vector is make it primary and secondary. Excellent. And I now need to do the same with this other vector here. So I'll choose that and go right click, edit vector. Oh, I was already there, wasn't I? Cool. Same pattern again, insert vector above. We'll make that one 2 meters. Make this one go from 44 to 36. Make that distance 18.3, and we'll go back and make sure that line there is primary and secondary. Excellent. And now I'm just trying to look at my dimension for that diagonal vector that we'll have to add in. So one final vector to add. This one's going to go from 43 to 44. Here. You can see I'm just hitting sort of tab to jump to the next cell between each piece of information that I enter. And that will be secondary only. Cool, so I think, have I got all my vectors sorted there? I can see that's going from 43 to 44. It's all looking good down in there. So next one is I'll just jump over to the marks panel to tidy up the attributes for those marks that were created. So we go edit mark, and we'll call this unmarked. Oops, I should have done it in here. 43. Yeah, when you choose the name type here, it will auto set the type for you. So definitely worth doing the name type first. That's a new boundary position. Excellent. And 44, which will be the next row below. Cool. So now I'm happy with my mark attributes. They're all sorted out. We've done our vectors, so I'll go to my existing parcels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a parcel next door. Let's pretend that these two lots are going to get some sort of benefit or effect from that easement. So I'll add each of them in. Now note they've defaulted to extinguished, so I'm going to have to go through and choose them to make set them over to referenced. So one thing to note is if you pick the checkbox in here, they highlight in the map for you, which is pretty handy to make sure you've got the right one. So I'll change each of them over to referenced. And once we've got them in here, they'll be able to flow through into our schedule memorandum. So that makes that a lot easier. I'll just deselect them from there too, because they can be a pain later on. Cool, so that's our existing parcels done. The next one is we need to create the new parcel. So we're going to add a parcel. Type will be easement. Area B. It's not height limited or apart. So I'm going to say appellation. It's created. I don't need an area. Topology layer will be secondary. And I'm going to link it. That looks like a bug. I shouldn't be highlighting that as an optional mismark because it's already there. Choose in my parcel and go link. And I'm also going to need to relink my primary parcel. That became unlinked when I edited these two vectors on the side of it. So I'll go back and link that one up. Really good to make sure your parcel linking is done before you work on your easement schedule, because then it flows all the validations through into the easement schedule for you. So I'll link that one. Link. Cool, I'm happy with that. So we'll go back to our schedule, and this one we're going to put in a schedule of easements rather than a memorandum of easements. So we'll create the table and go schedule of easements. Purpose, double click in the cell. What are we going to call that? Let's call it a right of way. Show on B. It's over lot 1. And the benefited land is going to be that one and that one. Occasionally, people get to this stage and they try to add it and they don't have the ability to choose those parcels, and the reason for that is because they haven't added it to their existing parcels panel. So just another reminder that if you get to this stage and you can't choose a parcel you need to, just make sure it is present in your existing parcels panel. Cool. So we've added that easement. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a feel for a reasonably likely occurrence that you think you finished your survey and you get a phone call saying you need to change something and you need to add some information in. Right, the next one we'll run through is pre-validation. So have intentionally left a few errors behind in here. So you can click run pre-val either by clicking this button or the button up here. I'll do that one.
You'll see there, because we know that sometimes pre-validation can take a wee while, so it has a notation there that you can close the panel and carry on working in your data set, and it will let you know once pre-validation is completed, so you can go back to the pre-validation panel.
Excellent. Okay. So I guess first thing in terms of pre-val, one of the feature requests that came through quite a lot was being able to get this report out as like a text file. So there's this download pre-val report button here, and that will come out in a style that pretty much exactly the same as how they came out in Legacy. So hopefully that's helpful for those of you who are after that. The next one is the groupings. So I'll just collapse these down so you can see them. We previously had the language of fatal, which has been reworded to preventing submission. We've got warnings. There used to be conflicts and warnings. We kind of group them together. And we've got information. And this is just kind of telling you something. And then compliant means, it ran a check and it passed it. Now, there's a lot of requests for improving pre-validation, and a lot of it comes down to, can we get some of the stuff out of this warnings one into the information one, so that you can, I guess, pay less attention to it, or at least know that it's not necessarily a serious issue. That's the kind of thing that can't be looked at until after Legacy Landonline pre-val is no longer used by both the internal and the external, or the kind of the pre-val that the staff use and the pre-val that the LINS people use, that surveyors use. So kind of hope to be able to make those improvements longer term, but this is where we are today. So I'm not going to fix up every error, but I'll run through a few of them. We've got a few minutes to work through. So what have we got? Y001. So in the process of adding that vector, I added a mark that kind of ended up with no vectors attached to it, and then removed it. So I'll just go delete on that and get rid of that. What else have we got here? No coordinates. The following marks are not linked to a vector, so those are all related to the same thing. Haven't done plan gen yet. Yes, I'm aware of that. Survey report has not been included. We'll run through a few warnings as well. The following marks have names that differ from the mark name recorded in Landonline. That was the marks panel. So can pull that up here and we'll look at those. So we've got mark ID 4. If I go to locate the feature, we'll see what's going on there. (318,579). So you can see I've called it 318,579. The underlying Landonline data said it should be called 318,578. It's a good reminder to go and check my reference surveys as well. It's not in there, so I've only referenced the mark. I do happen to know on the scenario that that's actually correct, so I'm not going to change it. But if I wanted to, I could just double click there and that would get rid of the warning. So I'll make a note on my survey report and say, I've got this right, that's all good. Hasn't been changed, the Landonline data are wrong. Now let's look at mark number 28. Okay, so all it's really saying is that I've added a unique identifier into the name of this field. So I'll make a comment on that in my survey report and jump over that. The 683 is a pretty handy one. It's saying that none of these were adopted, or there was no corresponding check in Landonline, so the data hasn't validated against the Landonline data. So really good clue that you'll want to have a good look at those. I've ended up with 2 PEG 39s. I've deleted mark 45 though, so that's gone. I'll rerun this report now and clean out a few of these pre-val errors. What else have we got? Supplied dimensions of adopted. Yep, so I've extinguished the parcels, but I haven't added the title references into the comprised in list. So I need to go over to my my existing parcels panel, estate records, and add those affected. Well, quite a few there. I won't do all of them because I don't think it's a good use of time. So that'll do for now. This one's an interesting one, the C500 error. So in legacy Landonline, surveyors were not allowed to edit the details on geodetic marks. We're essentially running a trial at the moment. It's been running for 2 years and seems to be going all right, where surveyors are allowed to edit these. So this rule is actually not saying the right thing. So if you have edited these edits will flow through to LINs, and then sort of on a monthly basis they get checked to make sure that the changes are suitable. So it is a if you find something about the description of the mark or anything like that you think you'd like to improve the data on, then you can make those edits in the marks panel and they will flow through into the survey. So hopefully you see that as a good thing. But yeah, we can't get rid of this C500 error until legacy Landonline's gone completely, unfortunately. Here's a good one, survey report. So I made a change to my schedule memorandum, but I haven't reattached it. So I need to go to my schedule panel and reattach it as a supporting document. You'll see it has updated that, which is all good. What else have we got here? I've got a couple of marks that don't have any vectors going to them. Cool, so marks 35 and 40. So I'll pick each of them in the panel here, highlight them on the map and have a look at what's going on. It's hard sharing only one screen, jeepers. Okay, so I see what's gone on here. These points have incorrectly been recorded as new marks. So these both adopted positions from an underlying survey. So I need to go through and change the state on those. And I'll also need to give them a new, came from that plan, DP10602. Cool. So that is probably about enough of pre-val errors. I could keep going for a long time, but it was just a chance to, I guess, run through a few of them and show how you can use the panels to go through and fix things or interact with the map to go through and fix them. Lastly, we're going to do a quick demo of the TA certification functionality before we jump over to questions / tips and tricks. So this one here is called TA certifications. If I choose that option, I get taken to a new tab. It's pulled my council through for me and my TA reference. This is the code, usually the code that the council gives you so that they know what this TA request is about. In this scenario, I'm going to create 2 packages, a 2D3 package and a 2D4 package. So I'll just create both of them. In my first package, I'll click on Add or Remove Certificates, and I'll do a 223 subject to my memorandum of easements. And in my 224, I'll just put 224 all conditions. One thing to mention is if you are struggling to remember which one of these to use, you can expand them out at this stage and see the wording. If the wording helps you remember which one it is that you're trying to use, I find that particularly useful with these amalgamation conditions. Can usually remember which one I'm trying to do once I expand those out and figure it out. Cool, so those have come through, and depending on the council, you might find they want you to type the word council one after that, or edit this in some way. Ultimately, the council can edit these things before they sign them. But yeah, anything with this kind of darker black text with the underline, you can go in and edit it, and everything's set up with autosave. Because the TA certs have opened in a new panel, new tab, so I find it easier just to click exit on the tab at that level and jump back to my survey. And I didn't go through actually sending it, so I won't send it in this scenario because I haven't yet prepared a plan, but you just hit that send button there to send it through to the TA. There are options for adjusting the order on the certificates, or deleting packages as well. Cool. One tip and trick before we jump over and start looking at questions, because this has come up quite a lot when I've been out and about talking to people, is releasing locks when you're working between this application, the legacy application for PlanGen. So obviously by early November, we're looking to turn off capture and legacy. So you're going to be in this scenario where you do your capture in the new app and you've still got PlanGen in the legacy system. And what we'll have going on there is you'll need to release locks. So say you're working in here and you wanted to jump into legacy PlanGen, the trick is you really want to click this back button here. If you click this back button to close the survey, it will release the lock for you. So if I click this now and jump back here, you'll see that there's no lock against the survey. What we find quite a lot of is people click this back button up here, the one built into their browser, and that does not release the lock. If you've locked it yourself, you can still just open it and click the back button to release the lock. If the lock isn't released, I believe it gets automatically released after 20 minutes of it not being used, but do be aware of that. It'll make your life a lot easier if you use the back button built into the application to release the locks. And it'll be good to get to a point where ultimately we don't need to use legacy Landonline anymore. We don't have the hassle of locks. Cool. That brings me to the end of my kind of structured demonstration part of the presentation. So now we'll kind of cut over to questions, and if we don't have enough question, I've got a bit of a list of tips and tricks to work through to draw up the time. So let's see where we're at. Have we got any questions come through yet, Jeremy?
We have a few, yeah. So it's good to see those coming through. One of the questions was, can a firm or set up a default list of enabled users? So instead of having to go through and select them individually and from the enabled users panel, is there a way of being able to set it so it automatically adds those users? There isn't at the moment. It'll be a good feature to have. And we're obviously looking at improving the process or improving the application with enhancements as we go, but that's something we'll be looking forward to in the future. Another question was about where do you put solicitors' details and if the parcel is limited?
Okay, cool. So we have not yet replaced the solicitor's details. And I don't believe we're intending to do that at this stage. We did a fair bit of consultation around it, and sorry, I'm just trying to read the question.
So a lot of feedback was, or consultation was held for this, and feedback was that it's a good opportunity to open communication lines with the solicitor if it hasn't been done already, and so most users didn't think it was necessary to have the solicitor's details in there, so we haven't carried that forward at the moment. Yeah,
cool. And on the limited title status, Linz actually knows whether the titles are limited. So just by choosing the title, that the data are all recorded to say this is limited. and that box gets ticked in the background automatically for you, so it's no longer left to a user to tick it or not. So hopefully that's helpful.
So the next question was about, did the XML import automatically link any marks?
Yeah, gotcha. So the import process doesn't link them itself as such. It's more that, so in that land XML, a handful of marks had been linked in survey software prior to doing the import. That was just to help it to, I guess, come into the right place and be able to run an adjustment. But I intentionally left a fair few unlinked in that XML so that we could demonstrate linking inside the application.
Yeah, so we recommend that you don't have to link them or have them linked as part of your XML import, but before you do the automatic linking, if you've got no marks linked to start with, just manually link at least to one or two, just so that it's in the right location. That helps set it so that it can find the automatic linking marks a lot easier. But yeah, we recommend you do link manually at least one or two marks first.
Nice. Got a question here about seeing the full width of the vector panel. So apart from getting a bigger screen, I think the most likely option is you can adjust the zoom on your screen, which will make everything a bit smaller. If it's popped out, you can actually just zoom the vector panel itself, so it won't edit the kind of size of everything else. So if you're in a popped out mode, you put it into a separate screen. You can hold down Control on your keyboard and scroll down or up on your mouse to zoom in and out. So that's one way of achieving it. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, and if people aren't aware, obviously you've got the column selection icon there on the top right of the panel. So that obviously allows you to hide some of the columns if you don't want to see some of them. So just limiting what's taking up the space on your panel.
Yeah, like a high percentage of surveys, for example, don't have a radius, so you can just turn on that, click that column selection option, turn off the radius. And sometimes people, you don't need both the from and to marks, so you could potentially turn off one of those and use up less and less space. So yeah, a couple of options there.
Just a word of warning here. So just remember that when you do close that panel, and then even if you close out of the data set and then come back into it, it does remember those settings. So if you can't find something, or if it's not showing something there, just to go back into this feature here, you may just want to reset columns, which will revert it back to the default, or just make sure you turn on the columns you need again.
Thanks, Jeremy. What have we got next? Mandatory miss marks. Okay, so the question here is when we put the mandatory miss marks in, where've my mandatory miss marks gone? Oh, there it was. When you put that mandatory miss mark in, do you not need to change the vectors to go from there to the miss mark and from there onwards? So the answer to that is no. Essentially, Landonline has kind of a concept of lines and vectors to account for this. So the vectors are like the measurements or calculated distances that the surveyor makes. So if I choose this, I'll right click and go edit vector. So the vector goes the full length, and then there's actually a line that goes from 30 to 41 and 41 to 24. So from a vector's perspective, you don't need to do it. And that mandatory miss mark process takes care of all the lines. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, and those lines are created when you link the parcel.
Nice. We have a comment here about the schedule memorandum table does not yet allow for an area type schedule. So yeah, acknowledge that. For now, the focus is on getting the features that are in legacy Landonline across and getting legacy turned off, and that will kind of open the door for it being a lot easier to add features without fear of breaking how the old system works. So that's, I guess, on the improvement backlog for once legacy Landonline's been decommissioned. Okay, Ben, we've got a question here about when old Landonline is retired, what happens to plan generation? I assume it will still be available. So yeah, there's this first kind of stage of retiring. It's only turning off capture. So in early November, the aim is to have that capture window, essentially the captured data set, survey details, pre-val, TA certification, those few tabs on the survey capture page will be disabled and you'll no longer be able to access them. But at that point in time, you still have plan generation tab and a sign and submit tab. So in November, you'll still do capture. You'll do capture in the new app, and you'll do plan gen and sign and submit in the legacy app. And then when those features are built, they'll be added into the new app, and then they'll be turned off in legacy. And then once that process has been through for everyone, eventually all of legacy will be gone. Yeah. Hopefully that covers that off. Yeah, and the timing on that is the plan is to have all features off on legacy Landonline for kind of survey customers by April 2025. So this November one is all about just capture. There will still be some searching happening in legacy. There'll still be plan gen and still be sign and submit. Yeah. Is there a new way to record reinstated, renewed boundary marks? Okay, this was going to be one of the tips and tricks. So we've had this question a little bit, and so we're going to do some work on the help material around it. I don't have an example of a disturbed mark in this survey, but I'll at least show where to find the functionality. So the first thing is the mark that gets recorded as disturbed is the position where you measured the mark as part of your survey. So let's pretend we're going to call this mark, which one am I going to choose? Let's call, doesn't matter too much. Probably not. I'll try to find one that I've got something to link to. Let's pretend we've called this one disturbed. Okay, so I'm going to zoom into this mark. I'm going to pretend that this is the new position of a mark. So when I've measured it in the field, I've found it, say, 8 centimeters different from where it was previously measured to on an underlying survey. So I've created a new mark. So I'll call this new. And for the condition, I go to condition, and I scroll to the bottom, and I choose disturbed. And that says that this is the disturbed position of a mark from a previous survey. That brings up this dialog box where I can then choose the mark or the underlying node ID. So that's that one there. And that's pulled it through. And you'll see it's set up like this to help you just make sure you've got it right. So what we're doing is we're saying, I've created a new mark, SES1K12DP405706, and it's the disturbed position of that mark. We go continue. And then you'll see in this column, you'll see that it shows as disturbed with the name, and it will also pop the kind of those words in there to help it flow into plan gen for you. So that would then show up if the mark description's on in plan gen, it will show that this mark is disturbed. Cool, that took a little bit longer than I thought. And we're getting close. Yeah, we're going to have to wrap up now. So I think we'll try get an answer to any remaining questions written up and circulated some way if we can. I haven't yet confirmed I have a mechanism to do that, but hopefully we can make that happen. Are we able to just jump back to the presentation for a second? Maybe I have it. That's all right. I've got it. So just to mention, there's another, whoa, that's gone crazy.
Do you want me to share it then?
Yeah, if you could. It's working. Nice. Cool. So there's another couple of webinars coming up, one on the 6th of October. So we're looking at large rural subdivisions. We've got Class D boundaries, water boundaries, and we'll talk a bit about exception requests. We won't do a live demo of one. And then on the 18th of October, we've got unit title developments. Jeremy will be taking the lead on that one. And then in November, early November, the plan is that legacy capture will be retired. So thank you very much for joining us today. Sorry we're a minute over, but yeah, appreciate that and have a great day.